We've got Santosh Navlani, COO ET Money, to help us achieve a financial freedom. And for this, he's laid down a plan of 8 steps or 8 levels that will help you achieve that all-time goal of your life. But before we step on to that part of the discussion, Santosh, welcome to the show. What is the importance of having the financial independence, or how do you actually define financial independence or freedom?
Hi, Kavita. I think financial freedom is something which we possibly use as a phrase in multiple ways and try to possibly mean different things for different people. But I think it makes sense to just look at what are multiple ways people look at it. I think many people classify it as or possibly term financial freedom as something that maybe a freedom or liberty to engage in any kind of indulgences if and when one wants. So it may be kind of buying a new cool gadget. It may be about just taking a kind of holiday when and if and when someone wants it, and maybe sometimes it can be also being prepared for unplanned expenditure. And at some times it can mean that one has the wherewithal to live all good and bad surprises that life throws at you and being able to overcome it. And sometimes it actually means that having enough money to take a sabbatical or retire when one wants it. And maybe fourth one can be actually mean that I actually I'm a controller of my time because I have so much money that I don't really work for money anymore. So I think everybody has different perspective towards financial freedom, and I think it's fine to have each having one's own in that sense. But I think it's essential that you know your own definition of it and having a plan or a stepwise approach towards achieving it. Otherwise, it remains a paper dream for most people.
Sure, sure. But tell me something, how far have you reached in this goal of yours?
I think I'm still working for money is what I would say. But no, I think I possibly can consider myself more of lucky in that sense where my passion and my work are all aligned together. I like to help people on getting their finances in better shape, and I think ET Money allows us to do at a different scale altogether compared to doing as an individual for each of them. So I think I'm still midway where I actually have enough control on my time, but I'm sure I have a plan where I'll get there soon.
Very interesting, because you are aware of where you are presently and what's the journey going ahead. So I think this should be the first level that you need to identify and cross when you are on this path of achieving financial freedom.
Of course, Kavita, I think there's always a thing, right? If you don't know where you want to go, any road will take you there. Similarly, if you don't know where you stand, you can't even plan. So I think it's most essential thing about achieving financial freedom is knowing where you stand today and what a desired outcome or a level that you want to achieve. And only then you can bridge this gap for yourself. So understanding where you are, like what are the monthly expenses, what kind of fixed or variable breakup that you have. Many people actually have so much of fixed expenses that they actually don't have control on their finances. It's far easier to control expenses that are variable in nature than actually controlling expenses which are fixed in nature. So having an understanding of expenses, having understanding of what kind of savings one is doing on a monthly basis, kind of what kind of assets one has gathered, having a control on debt, having an investment plan, all those things contribute to actually being clearer about your financial freedom that you want to achieve in life.
Sounds really a lot of things to note down and observe and learn about yourself and your finances. But then let's break this down. And what about financial goals? How can one actually line up their financial goals? How can one identify what could be a financial goal?
I think it's far better to have more defined or quantified goals, Kavita, than actually having a goal which is overarching in nature, which is financial freedom. I think once you are clear that you want to achieve financial freedom or be a financially free person, and that definition is your own, that means you need to lay down what it means. And it actually means what goals one wants to tick off before one calls oneself as a financially free person. So I think goals becomes number one step. You need to know them, and one of the ways to actually becoming more clearer about it is having a framework for goals, and we call it a SMART framework. It's like goals which are specific in nature, are are measurable, are achievable, are realistic, and have a defined timeline. So if you say that I want to accumulate 10 crores over next 30 years of my working life, it's a very specific and measurable and a goal which has a timeline to it. And you will be able to work towards it. So having goals defined is far more important to get started on that journey. And of course, when you have a goal, you would need to have a plan and some kind of execution rigor to be able to stick to the plan.
One thing that you mentioned is to quantify your goal so that you get the right investment strategy. How can one do that?
Yes, I think having a kind of goal, which I possibly said very smart in that sense, where a smart goal can be having a corpus of 10 crore in 30 years. But one can actually say that I don't have a number in mind, but possibly I want to be able to retire peacefully, have enough money to be able to fund my children's education, and of course have money that I can enjoy my life during retirement. So there can be three different goals there, and there are three different buckets to it. So every bucket would require different kind of plan. So for example, you can postpone your retirement by 2 years, but you will not be able to postpone the kid's education. If he or she would need to go college by 18 or by 20, then you can't postpone the academic career, academic year in that sense. Similarly, you be able to kind of compromise, trade off your number of yearly holidays that you can take when you're retired. So I think having a kind of clarity what kind of goal is how much important and what priority it has would first allow you to really basically say that which goal I would first start saving for or planning for. And then according to that, you will build an investment plan around it in terms of how much time you have to accumulate corpus for it. Some goals may have 10 years timeline, some goals may have 20 years timeline to it. And of course, the investment strategies that you'll follow for them will be different. The risk you will be able to take for each of them will be different. So I think having that understanding of tenure, when that goal is due, and what kind of corpus you would require for that goal, and what kind of priority you will assign to that goal, is basically the first foundation of setting an investment plan.
But then now, once you already have your goals lined up and maybe you've identified the investment strategy as well, comes the step where you need to figure out your expenses, because there has to be some amount that you need to invest, which will also contribute to your corpus. Now, to come to that amount, that figure, how can one understand how much are their expenses, and how can one control it? How important it is to control your expenses? Obviously, it is, but in the larger scheme of things, we're talking about financial freedom. How can one go about?
Yeah, so I think the job becomes far easier when you say that I need to figure out to invest X amount every month, than actually say cutting expenditure. So because when you cut expenditure, it becomes a compromise in your behavior or in your thinking, and you may be able to not overcome that kind of urge to spend. I think the bigger approaches or rather better approaches figuring it out that I need to invest, for example, 10,000 rupees every month for my children's education, 15,000 for my retirement, and maybe 7,000 for my indulgence goal when I retire. In that sense, so if I set these goals, then I know I need to basically figure out a way to have 32,000 rupees per month available for investments. And now you need to figure out where the spends are going, which you may be able to afford to invest 32, you may not be able to afford 32, and then you will figure out that which expenditure I need to cut. And on ET Money app, actually, we provide this very easy feature where you actually can opt in to track your expenditure, at least the expenditure which happens digitally every month on your debit card, on your credit card, on UPI, on wallets or whatever it may be. As long as the transaction is digital, it can be traced and can help you understand where you're spending most of your money. So some impulse kind of items, some impulse expenditure possibly can be overcome easily. And sometimes it becomes easier to really just say that let me wait for 2 or 3 more days, and if I feel the need to really buy this stuff which is impulsive in nature, then I'll buy it. So if you control these kind of put in some kind of controlling mechanism to your expenditure, you'll be able to control it as well. But first thing is knowing how much you need to really save or invest, and then figuring out where your money is going, which is basically wasteful or can be cut down.
something very important to keep in mind when you're going for festive shopping. I mean, one has to really be careful of having too many financial liabilities, which could hamper their investment strategies and their investment amount. But then going ahead, tell me something. There are a lot of thumb rules when it comes to financial planning, right? Is one basic rule you earn, you invest, and then you save? Is that how it goes, or you've got a new version for this?
No, I think it's. I think we have this version called pay yourself first. So I think the most important thing is the moment if your salaried individual becomes far easy because would typically have a fixed date on you on which you would actually get your salary credit. It can be end of the month, it can be beginning of the month. But the moment money hits your account, you first pay yourself, which means that you pay for your goals first, and then you pay for your expenses. If you follow that mantra, it becomes far more easier to stay disciplined on investments than actually do otherwise. Because the expenditure, if you allow to first trickle in and then you invest, chances are very high you may not have enough money left to invest. So I follow this principle very very clearly, that first the amount which is required to pay for your goals or rather save towards your goals gets sidelined first, and then kind of spend rest of the money. And I think it becomes very very easy to consolidate your activities like this. So I have simple hack that most of my expenditure is actually on credit cards, or which basically I don't borrow money, but I actually use as a matter of convenience. So all my expenditure will be basically lined up towards second to 10th of the month, and I'll be able to consolidate all my payments towards it. So first money comes in, you basically invest that money, you automatically have all your expenditure consolidated because you pay your credit card bills, and next 15 days or 20 days you would not have any expenditure much, simply because you are spending on credit card. So I think it becomes far more easy to organize expenditure than actually say that some money is going from bank account, some is going from credit card, some is going from wallets. I think that's very unorganized nature actually eats into your financial behaviors and possibly tricks into you not being able to invest enough.
So what is going to be your spendless hack, or a hack that you would like to recommend our viewers, and something that you also recommend people on ET Money app?
So I think one of the first fundamental thing is invest your own career and actually keep growing, because there is a time there'll be kind of a stage which will come where you would not be able to cut down your expenses, Kavita. I think it's far more important to work towards increasing your income simultaneously while you try to cut down expenditure. They have to go hand in hand. I think what has worked for at least people whom I know and we work with is always continue to keep increasing your income, find ways to increase it, and if you're not able to increase it, find ways to actually add to your sources of income by actually doing something which adds to your income, like basically renting your house, or doing some kind of side gig which actually is not conflicting with the work and can be called moonlighting. So I would say that increasing income are the first things that you should be doing rather than actually working too much on cutting expenditure down.
All right, coming to your next tip, which is to pay off your debt. Now, what exactly do you count in as debt, or what kind of financial liabilities are we talking about over here?
So I think in today's times, in the age of digital commerce, buy now, pay later behaviors, what is happening, Kavita, is many people actually are taking on debts which they may think it's like couple of thousand rupees here and there every month. But the moment you do 3 or 4 BNPL transactions or no cost EMI kind of transaction, you suddenly realize that your monthly bill, which may not be any kind of interest bearing expenditure, but still adds up to something which is compromising on your ability to invest and save money. And sometimes if EMIs with interest come in, it actually hampers your ability to create wealth because you're paying a lot of interest cost on your debt. So first of all, the best part is don't take on debts in life. But if you need to take debts which actually are not prohibitively expensive on your pocket in terms of interest rate, and are such which are more of taken debts which are appreciative in nature. So if you're buying a house, that debt is fine in that case, as long as you can afford to pay that debt. But if you have enough debt right now, figure it out to pay off it as soon as possible, improve your credit score simultaneously, and prioritize at least high interest bearing debt first, then the low interest bearing one. Sometimes it may look like an EMI of 10,000 rupees, which looks like something which I can be able to afford, but the interest on that may be 16%, and an EMI which basically is like say 15,000 rupees for a house loan may be at 8%. So you may be able to prioritize something which is high interest bearing first, and then take on low interest bearing debt to go and repay faster.
Last one, diversification as a part of your investment portfolio is important, but how does one actually diversify the source of income? Is that really an important thing to achieve financial freedom?
So I think, Kavita, a lot of people talk about it and it's important, but it's. I think many people also take it in a very different way, which may not be what the financial experts or advisors intend to communicate. So when you say you add sources of income to yourself, is figure out something over a period of time that actually adds to your wealth or to your annual income on its own, which basically means you invest in income generating assets. So an income generating asset can be a piece of land or an apartment that you invested, which basically gives you any kind of rental yield, or having a commercial property which basically gives a healthy yield. It can also be basically investing stocks and securities which pay you kind of annual income in terms of dividends, or it can be basically having enough money channelizing into SIPs, which actually keep compounding on their own, which may not add to your income directly, but actually are adding to your wealth, which you may be able to monetize or cash out in appropriate time. So additional sources of income are something which may not be in terms of paycheck, but in
Right,
terms of
right.
assets which you can monetize on is important.
Absolutely. All right, so this will be a very smart investment strategy if one can apply to, but that will be all. Thank you so much, Santosh, for making time and guiding our viewers in achieving financial independence and financial freedom.